This is my post-fight analysis video from the fight last night between previously unbeaten Magomed Abdusalamov and Mike Perez. The two met in a 10-round heavyweight contest in Madison Square Gardens as cheap support co-main event on the Gennady Golovkin-Curtis Stevens bill. Both guys came to the ring unbeaten. Just to touch on their records briefly, Mike Perez, 19 fights, 19 wins, 12 by knockout. Famously won the prizefighter tournament, I think back in 2011. Took the scalps of Kirsten Mansell, Gregory Toney and Ty Fields. His last fight was against Travis Walker, sort of medium to high class journeyman, I guess you could say. He's got a good reputation, Perez, but he's been struck with quite a bit of inactivity, and people have kind of been left wondering, where's he gone, and if he's still a real player on the scene. Some of the initial excitement about him seemed to have ebbed away. Magomed Abdusalamov rolls off the tongue. He comes to the ring with a bit of a fearsome reputation. 18 fights, 18 wins, 18 knockouts. Knocked the vast majority of his opponents out in the very first round. I don't think he'd ever gone beyond 5 before. So the fight was for the WBC United States heavyweight title, obviously one of the lower level sort of WBC belts, you could say. But both guys came to the ring looking, neither of them looked in sort of great physical shape, and that both were carrying a bit of a tire on them, you could say. Perez back down to the sort of weight he was fighting at 2 or 3 fights ago, which is good because he ballooned up for his last 2 fights. Abdusalamov came in again looking like he had a bit of a tire, but yeah, both guys got started, and Buffer announced it from the beginning. Someone's always got to go, and they came out to centre the ring, and it was pretty much a sort of brawl from the absolute beginning. It was all action stuff, heavy blows being traded from the off, really. I was quite impressed, I should say, with Mike Perez's chin. Perez took 3 or 4 very, very heavy-looking shots from Mago in the very first round. There's a few times he took massive blows to the jaw, and a lesser man would have gone down off that. But Perez was not wobbled at one bit, never looked in trouble at all. And this is against a chap who's won all his fights by early stoppage, so we say. So yeah, I was quite impressed by Perez in that side. Perez used a very good jab, excellent head movement. I'd say those were his 2 sort of main points, his superb jab, superb head movement. And he looked a slightly classier level of fighter than Mago, I must say. As I say, there was a lot of trading going on, and Perez has slightly altered his style. It's much more fan-friendly, much more action. Certainly against Travis Walker in his last fight, very cagey, a bit of hit-and-run style. That was not the case last night. It's very much like sort of barroom brawl, proper heavyweight bust-up. And, Perez, whether he's become more fan-friendly because he's been told to do so by his promoters and management team, I don't know, but it certainly made for an entertaining fight. So I gave the first 2 rounds to Mike Perez, working behind a jab and, mainly just looking a slightly classier opponent, landing classier work. The 3rd and 4th I gave to Mago Abdusalamov. He sort of worked his way into the fight. It was still very much a brawl, but he was coming forward, pressing the action quite a lot, and I just felt like he was the one bringing the fight in those 2 rounds. Now, from the 4th onwards, I really felt, going into the 5th round and onwards, I should say, I really think Perez started to take control of the fight. He became a much more dominant force. Whether that was Mago getting a bit tired, maybe the extra poundage wore him down at that point, and obviously he's not used to going into the later stages of the fight. He's never gone beyond 5 rounds before, whereas Perez last time round went the full rounds with Travis Walker, so maybe that came into effect. But I just thought Perez started to wear him down. He kept using the jab, throwing decent combos, and whilst some of the rounds were quite close and you could make an argument they went either way, I really think Perez stretched on, and I pretty much gave him every round from the 5th onwards, to be honest. Now, there was a point taken off by the referee for a low blow from Perez towards the end of the fight. Fair, it was a low blow, seemed to go slightly below the belt. it didn't look intentional. I probably wouldn't have taken a point off myself. But yeah, no real complaints there. So I scored that one 9-9, but the rest I had in favour of Perez. So I only gave Mago the third and the fourth rounds. In total, with the point deducted, I scored the fight 97-92. Going to the judges, I felt Perez had won, quite clearly and was getting stronger towards the end of the fight. It looked very possible that we could get a stoppage in the last round, but Mago just, held on. Had it been a championship fight, for 12 rounds, I'm pretty confident Perez would have got him out of there. And whilst Perez doesn't seem to have that stunning, one-punch knockout power, of a David Price or Deontay Wilder, he lands in flurries. He's got really, really decent hand speed, really decent technique, and he will definitely score more knockouts as he goes into that 12-round territory, because he keeps coming forward and he's throwing big bombs. So yeah, I gave it 97-92 to Perez. The fight was given to Perez on a unanimous decision. Two of the judges agreed with my own scoring, 97-92. Another one scored it 95-94. I didn't think 95-94 did Perez justice. Having said that, as I say, there were a few rounds that were quite close. They were pretty much a brawl, and Abdusalamov kept coming forward and pressed the action. So I could kind of see how a few of the rounds were close. So Perez won. I think watching the fight back a second time, he won quite clearly, in my opinion. So, where do they go next? Obviously, Perez moving up the rankings, picked up a minor WC belt. He's got there was constant talk from, the commentators about the winner of this fight going on to fight Vladimir Klitschko, who was in the crowd. I myself don't see that happening. There's too many, big names out there. You've obviously got the winner of David Haye Fury. You've got Stavern and Areola. Obviously, Deontay Wilder is a much bigger name at this stage than Mike Perez. I think at this stage Perez has got a problem that he's quite a risk to take on. I don't think many fighters would be throwing their hat in the ring to fight him. He's pretty sound. But at the same time, he's not a massive reward by going out and beating him. He's not still a huge name or anything like that. So I think it's going to be hard to sort of match him up next time round. I certainly don't see him getting in line for a Klitschko title shot. I still think he's outside of the top 10 rankings, for example. Where does he go next? I guess he's got to fight someone well known, start to get more into that fray. If he could perhaps get a fight with the likes of Areola, Stavern, maybe a returning Povetkin, one of those guys, someone who's got a bit of a name, perhaps even someone like Seth Mitchell or Tony Thompson, just someone who will sort of be better known with the public, and therefore his name rises in the boxing arena. I think he's still got a bit of work to do on his conditioning. I liked his new style. And I think that Perez can go places. He's 28, so he's still young for a heavyweight. Only reservations, he's still a bit small. He's carrying a bit too much fat on him, and I don't know what the full extent of his potential is. But I certainly think he's got another few wins in him, and I was quite impressed with his performance last night. Magomed Abdusalamov, I don't know where he goes from here, to be honest with you. He's now obviously been slightly exposed in the sense that he's gone in against someone decent, and the second they stood up to his power, he's been slightly outclassed. I don't really see how he's going to come back into contention after this. I do know obviously it's a bit early to strike someone off after one fight, but I don't think that it's a case that he got caught or he got a bit unlucky. He was comprehensively outclassed, in my opinion. He was pretty bust up at the end of the fight, so I don't know how quickly he's going to want to be coming back. But I think it's going to be a slow rebuilding process if he does have another crack at it. And I can't really see him being taken as a serious contender unless he gets in with some decent names and defeats them. But we'll see. So as I say, Perez now moves to 20 fights, 20 wins, still 12 knockouts, whereas Mago now 19 fights, 18 wins and 1 loss. That is my analysis. Please leave your comments in the section below.